Hi, sixth graders. My name is Mrs. Mondra and I teach band at SOC. And today I'm here to make a video for flute players. And we are going to be discussing the following things: how to open your case, the different parts of the flute, how to assemble your flute and put it together, how to hold your flute properly, making an initial sound on your flute, and putting the instrument away safely. So that's what we'll be covering in this video. So first of all, opening our case can be more complicated than we think, because if we don't open it the right way, our instrument can fall out and get ruined. So we want to always have our case either on the floor to open it or on a stable hard surface, like I have this cart here. All right, the other two things are we want the handle towards our belly, and then I'll bring this closer so you can see. Your case should have a label on it, like mine says Yamaha. Yours might say Bach, or it might say Artley, or Gemeinhardt. We want that on top, like facing the ceiling, okay? So if you have your case on the floor or hard surface with that label on top, a handle towards your belly, we're in good shape. Then what you're gonna do is just unlatch your case and open it. Ooh, so beautiful. So the flute has three main parts, and we need to know what those are called so that when we're putting it together, it's a little bit easier. So I want you to find the part that has the hole in it with like it's called a lip plate, kind of like a circular piece of metal around it. It looks like this. All right, let's take that out. This one is called the head joint. This is the most important part of your instrument because it's where we make the sound. Your head joint also might be a little bit darker on the bottom of it. That is normal. That's what we want. Okay, so we're going to put that back. That's the head joint. Then we have the biggest part, which we call the body. You can take that out. Be careful. Don't crunch on any keys. That's where we put our fingers, okay? And then we have the smallest part, goes at the bottom end. We call it the foot joint. It looks like this. So we have a head joint, the body, and the foot joint. Those are our three main parts. It's also important to know a few things on our head joint. So let's take that out again. I'm going to be talking later about what's called a lip plate. And the lip plate is just simply this part of your head joint. And this hole we call the tone hole. So it's literally that hole right there. So I might be referring to that later, so I want us to know what that is. Okay, so how do I put my flute together? Well, there's a certain way that I have my students do it that I think works pretty well, all right? So what you would do is, I'm going to turn it so you can kind of watch this way. You are going to grab your head joint in your right hand and hold it just under that lip plate and between that colored part, okay? So that's my right hand. Then I'm going to take out my body of the flute and hold it in my left hand, but I'm holding it at the part like without a lot of keys. Then if I'm holding at the part without a lot of keys, I'm going to gently twist and push that head joint into the flute. I don't want to shove it. I just gently twist and push it. And I'm going to line up that tone hole with all of those keys. All right, so you can see like mine is in a line right there. If it was crooked like this, that hole wouldn't be aligned with the keys, right? So I want that in line with the keys. All right, so I'm going to hold that part in my right hand again, and I'm going to add the foot joint to this little connector piece at the bottom of the body. It should also be darker. So let's grab the foot joint, have that in my left hand, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently twist and push that onto the bottom of the body. Now, you might think it makes sense for all the rods to line up, but that's actually not what happens. You want to line up the rod on the foot joint with the middle of this bottom key on the body. So if you kind of look for like these donuts, they look sort of like donuts filled in, right? Then in the middle of that last key on the body is where that foot joint will line up. Now we have our flute together, and the last step is we're going to flippy dip it around because your head joint should be on your left side of your body, okay? I just find that it's a little easier to put it together that way. So that's how we put our flute together. And now we got to talk about how to hold our instrument. Well, we flippy dipped it to the left, right? So that's what we want. And now the hands can be kind of tricky on the flute. If you think about when you played recorder, how your left hand was on top and your right hand was on bottom, that's like it is on the flute, except that our hands are to the side. So if you kind of imagine that your hands are this way, let's make sure your left hand is on top and your right hand on bottom. And again, we're going to turn it. Another way to think of it is our left hand scoops under and our right hand's going to give it a high five, okay? So left hand under, right hand a high five. Now, the flute can be really tricky with knowing where to put your hands. So let's start with our left hand, the trickiest hand. Okay, we have these two thumb keys here. One looks kind of like a fin and one more like a golf club. The golf club one is on the left and the fin on the right. We want to put our thumb on the fin key. So let's put our thumb on that fin key. Now, the rest of my left hand fingers can be really tricky. So I have a saying for that. If you can remember, New York, New York, York, meaning great shape. And the new stands for no, and the York stands for yes. So let's think about that. When I go to my keys then, on my left hand, I'm going to simply follow that pattern with New York, New York, York. And if it's a York or a yes, then I put my finger down. If it's a new or a no, I don't. So if I order my keys, I'm going to go new, so that's a no, so I can't go there. Then York, that's a yes, so I'm going to put my first finger there. Then I have new, that's a no, so then I have to go next to York, that's a yes, so I put my finger down there. And then another yes, so then I put my finger down there. So another way to say it is skip one, first finger, skip 1 second, third. But I find that it's easier for me to remember New York, New York, York. Okay, and what does your pinky do? Your pinky is just going to gently rest or hover on that apostrophe key, but it doesn't press down. Now you're like, well, that feels kind of weird. How do I balance on there? Your hand, if I turn this way maybe, your flute should be resting on this part of your finger there. So it's actually touching on that first finger. That's where a lot of the weight is actually held. All right, so it's this part right there between like where your palm and your first knuckle are there. All right, so that's how that will go. So again, thumb, New York, New York, York, pinky's on the apostrophe key. So that's my scooping hand. What about my right hand giving the high five? I like to work backwards. So if we think about on our foot joint, it has this lowercase d key. That's our right pinky key. So we put our pinky there. You can even touch it down if you want. Then, if we're going backwards, all we're going to do is put our third finger on the last donut of the body. So see how we're kind of working backwards? Then my middle finger on the next one, and my first finger on that one. So that one's a little easier, right? So pinky on the lowercase d, then I have this finger here, middle finger, and first. They're just going backwards. What about your thumb? This is something people often mess up, but you won't. So you want to make sure that your thumb goes under the first and second finger, and it's just right underneath those, so your hand makes a nice backward C there, okay? I see a lot of flute players accidentally do this, and they put their right thumb forward, but then look what happens to my other fingers. They are out of their homes, so we have to make sure that's under there. We always want our fingers to be in charge of the keys they're in, or I say keep your fingers in their homes. All right. So that is our basic hand position. Let's just double check we got it all right. So in my left hand, I have my thumb on that fin key. Then I'm just tipping my flute so you can see. Then I have New York, New York, York, pinky there. Okay. And my foot joint, have my pinky on my lowercase d key. Then I work backwards. 6, 5, 4. I bet your band teachers too are going to call your fingers like thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pinky. That's what a lot of us call them. So another way you can practice this is by doing a finger pattern where you just press down the fingers in that order, like thumb, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pinky. That will help your fingers get used to where they need to be. Okay, so now we are going to talk about how we put our flute away. So let's get that camera back on the case. When we put the flute away, we don't want to crunch and grab any keys because that can ruin them. So I always go with my foot joint first. So I grab it on the bottom here, and then I'm also kind of putting my left hand on the top of that body. and I gently twist and pull that off and put that in the case. Okay, then I'm going to gently twist and pull that head joint and body and put those in the case. Alrighty. If you're wondering about cleaning your instrument, there'll be another video on that, or your band director will show you how to do that. And now we just have to go over making an initial sound, okay? So we want to always do that with just the head joint. So let's pull that head joint back out. And what we're going to do actually is, before we even use the head joint, I want you to say the word M. So let's do it together. Ready? M. That just gets your lips set up sort of nice and even. And then I want you to say the word poo with your lips still in the M. M. Poo. M. Poo. And now we're going to do the air like poo, like M. Poo. Let's do that a few times. M. Poo. Make sure your lips stay in M. M. Poo. It's really important that your lips don't come forward like this. That'll bring you into trouble, or that will give you trouble as well. Okay, so and let's just put our right first finger kind of underneath our bottom lip. And think about blowing like as if it was going down here. So not quite straight, but a little bit down. And that's what we want to do. So let's try doing the poo sound. Ready? Okay, so then when I add my head joint, I'm going to do those same things. It's just going to sound a little different because, of course, I have the head joint. Let's make sure with our right hand, this one, we cover up that, cover up right there. And then you can just let your left hand hold here, okay? So now I'm going to bring that head joint to me. There are two ways we can do this, all right? And right now, remember, this is in my right hand, but it's mirrored for you right now. Either I can bring this so the tone hole is exactly parallel or even with the ground. What I'm going to do is bring it up to my bottom lip, but put it a little bit more up on that bottom lip. I'm going to say M. I'm going to give it a poo sound. M. Okay, so you notice my lips should be right in line with each other. There's another way you can do it if that's kind of tricky for you. You can also do this way. It's called the kiss and roll out method, where you actually want to start with your head joint like this. You do M, and you bring that to your face, and then you roll it out so that tone hole is even with the ground, and then you go poo like this. Okay, so that is how we make that initial sound. Now, what you need to do is try that again. If you're not getting a sound, a lot of times students might have their tone hole over to the side. That doesn't work. It's got to be right in the center. But what if it's in the center like this? Oh no. What has to happen is, I'm going to be kind of creepy for a second. That bottom lip has to be over the back of this tone hole. See how it's over it just the tiniest bit? So if you're having trouble, I would suggest using a mirror, going over to that mirror and just leaning over like I did and checking that out. Because on the flute, we have to find what we call the sweet spot, and it can be really tricky to find. So those are some things that can help with that. So M poo, you can put this even with the ground, bring it up on that bottom lip a little bit, or you can do the kiss and roll out. Whichever one of those works for you. As long as we're getting the sound, your band directors will be just happy with that, okay? Now we're quickly going to just play, put our flute back together and try one note. So again, I've got my head joint into the body. I've done this a few times, so I'll be really fast. If you need to pause it so you get more time, go ahead and put your fingers where they go. All right. A good note to start on with flute is G. So in this video, we'll just do that. So I want you to press down these buttons. Thumb, 1, 2, 3, right pinky. Now, when I use the whole flute, it can be so much harder than just the head joint, okay? So make sure you have a really great head joint sound and then go to the whole flute. What you are gonna do is bring that instrument to you without moving your head. So your head should be nice and straight. And then you wanna bring that head joint to you just like as if you had that head joint, okay? Notice that maybe my flute is a little bit more forward in my right hand. That's okay. It doesn't have to be totally back like that. It should feel pretty relaxed. And then if I take a big breath and I have my head joint in the right spot, I'm going to do that poo sound. Okay, so that is your challenge to get that going. But if it's sounding like this, we just don't have that head joint in the right spot. Right? So make sure it's in the center. Either kiss and roll out or bring that right to the center on the bottom lip. Okay, so that was a lot of information, but we know you can do it. And good luck with your first steps of the flute. In the next video, we'll be talking about how to play the first 3 notes. Thank you.